Hundreds of goats munch on long blades of yellow grass on a hillside next to a sprawling townhouse complex in Sacramento, California. But these animals are not out on a leisurely grazing trip. They are on duty and have a very important task at hand: to clear vegetation that could fuel wildfires. As temperatures rise this summer, these voracious herbivores are hired by the local authorities to devour weeds and shrubs that have proliferated across California after a drought-busting winter of heavy rain and snow.
We have our goats grazing some of the tall grasses and weeds that could potentially be fuel for wildfires. So we're working to graze those and essentially mow those down to reduce the fire risk for the upcoming dry season.
Targeted grazing is part of California's strategy to reduce wildfire risk because goats can eat a wide variety of vegetation and graze in steep, rocky terrain that's hard to access. And backers say they're an eco-friendly alternative to chemical herbicides or weed-whacking machines that cause all kinds of pollution.
That it's a much more sustainable approach. There's no emissions, there's no fuel, oil, any of that stuff going on. So we're reducing our carbon footprint that way, which is a great effort by the city in our sustainability goals.
However, new state labor regulations, which seek to raise the salary of herders, among other things, are making it more expensive to provide goat grazing services. The new law could raise the monthly salary of herders, mostly migrants from Peru, from about $3,730 to up to $14,000, according to the California Farm Bureau. For a herd of 400 goats, companies typically put about one herder in charge. Companies have historically been allowed to pay goat and sheep herders a monthly minimum salary rather than an hourly minimum wage, because their jobs require them to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But the legislation signed in 2016 entitles them to overtime pay, which effectively boosted the herders' minimum monthly pay from $1,955 in 2019 to $3,730 this year, and it's now set to hit $4,381 in 2025, according to the California Department of Industrial Relations. Goat herders would be subjected to the same labor laws as other farm workers if the law takes effect on the 1st of January without amendments. However, the goat grazing industry is pushing the legislature to approve a law that would treat goat herders the same as sheep herders. Herding companies have sued over the law on the grounds that they can't afford to pay herders that much. They say that they would have to drastically raise their rates, which would make it unaffordable to provide goat grazing services.
So by January 1 of 24, if we cannot fix the current legislation, we will be forced to sell these goats to slaughter and to the auction yards, and we'll be forced out of business and probably file for bankruptcy.
Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher, who heads the California Labor Federation, said goat herders are among the most vulnerable workers in America because they are on temporary work visas and can be fired and sent back to their home country anytime. Most of them work in isolation, speak minimal English, and don't have the same rights as Americans or green card holders.
While the state of California is funding these measures, I think it also has a responsibility to make sure that the workers who are associated with it aren't being abused, that they're not being taken advantage of, that they, in fact, are being treated fairly.
Fletcher had sponsored the farm worker overtime bill when she was a state assemblywoman representing San Diego. California has been investing heavily in wildfire prevention after the state was ravaged by several years of destructive flames that scorched millions of acres, destroyed thousands of homes, and killed dozens of people.
And so the demand has grown year after year after year. California is probably the largest state that does goat grazing and or some kind of herbivore fuels abatement.
The 2022 California wildfire season was a series of wildfires burning throughout California. By the end of the year, a total of 7,667 fires had been recorded, totaling approximately 363,800 939 acres across the state, killing 9 people, destroying 772 structures, and damaging another 104 buildings. The 2022 season followed the 2020 and 2021 California wildfire seasons, which had the highest and second highest number of acres burned in the historical record. With climate scientists warning that the world could breach a new average temperature record in 2023 or 2024, fueled by climate change, the clock is ticking for California to reach a consensus on the issue and start wildfire mitigation work.